A tentacled creature of unknown origin destroys over 70% of the moon, and he announces that he will destroy the world in 1 year. Nonetheless, Ministry of Defense government worker Tadami Karasuma allows the creature to be the teacher of Class 3E. The students are given weapons specifically designed to hurt the creature and are offered a reward of 10 billion yen to whoever can assassinate him before graduation. It all begins in Class E3, where a seemingly depressed classroom awaits with uncertainty the arrival of their teacher. The teacher arrives in the schoolyard and the students prepare to greet him, and as soon as they see him enter the classroom, they greet him as we are taught in public school, by shooting him. However, the teacher is not only so used to this that he is able to dodge everything at superhuman speed, but while doing so, he takes the class attendance and is happy to see that no one has arrived late. This leaves the students speechless, as their teacher humiliated them again. To encourage them, he tells them that they must be original and disruptive to succeed in taking him down, and although one of them tries to excuse himself by saying that those BB guns are useless, the professor tells him that those BB guns are specially designed by the government to take him down, and does not hesitate to give him a demonstration of it. Then he wishes them luck so they can finish him off before graduation, and tells them that the class is about to start. So he asks them not to use the guns on each other. Later, while the smiling professor is teaching his class, Nagisa, the class leader, who although she looks like a waifu is a man, sees the moon and begins to remember something. A flashback reveals that a few months ago, the media put society on alert by telling them that a creature had destroyed 70% of the moon in an instant. Days later, the government gathered the students of Class 3E to introduce them to Koro, the creepy creature responsible for the destruction of the moon. One of the government agents explains to them that Koro not only destroyed the moon, but that he plans to destroy the entire Earth the following year if they fail to assassinate him. He further reveals to them that it was Koro who gave them that time frame and asked them to be the Class 3E in charge of trying to take him down. He even asked to be allowed to be the class teacher. The reward for completing the mission is 10 billion yen, as it is literally about saving the world. Back in the present, Koro-sensei sees that it is lunchtime and tells his class that he will be traveling to China to buy some tofu, so the class estimates that it will take less than 10 minutes. Nagisa can't stop thinking about how strange it all is, since Koro is an amazing teacher who was able to help them improve their grades a lot, and is even committed to being with them after class, even though they try to take him by surprise to kill him. The class is literally a bunch of losers and outcasts, and they know it. So a small group of them organize a plan to take Koro down. They know that Koro's face changes color according to his feelings, and information is more than valuable to elaborate an effective plan that has Nagisa as the protagonist. During the class, Nagisa approaches Koro as invisible as always to ask him questions related to the exam, but without him noticing that she is carrying a knife behind the blade. However, the knife was nothing more than a facade for Koro to concentrate on dodging the attack, without realizing that Nagisa was literally carrying out a kamikaze attack with a grenade in her necklace. This plan had been planned by the three who met Nagisa, as the grenade was filled with special pellets and a small pinch of gunpowder to damage Koro without causing much damage to Nagisa. However, Koro noticed everything and evaded the attack, but not before protecting Nagisa with his old skin. This infuriated him, so he threatened the students to finish off their family members if they don't stop wasting their time with questionable methods, although he ends up congratulating Nagisa for having the best attempt of the class so far. This makes Nagisa happy, as she finally feels that someone appreciates the group's effort and doesn't look down on them. Days later, while Koro was reading the newspaper in the schoolyard, Sugina and Nagisa try to take him by surprise by throwing a baseball full of special pellets at him. Logically, Koro dodges this as if it were a game and appears from behind the children, congratulating them for their excellent and stealthy plan, but that thanks to his speed, he had enough time even to go and get a baseball glove to take the ball in his hands, so Sugina gets frustrated. Later, Koro announces to the class that they will finish early, as he will be traveling to New York to watch a baseball game. During his absence, members of the Ministry of Defense take advantage of the moment to interview the students in the class for useful information, though they only believe that taking down someone capable of breaking the sound barrier is impossible. The next day, during lunch, Sugina is surprised by Koro, who not only gives him back his ball, but also congratulates him on his throw, as well as asking him if he is a member of any team. Sugino answers him that he used to be in one, but he was not a good pitcher, so he got depressed and stopped studying, which is why he was sent to Class E and can no longer join any team, due to the fact that he is forced to improve his grades. Meanwhile, Nagisa watches them through the window and goes over to see what's going on, but is left open-mouthed when she sees that Koro is using his tentacles to wrap around Sugino's body from all sides. Koro tells Sugino that he has noticed the way he imitates a professional player named Arati, but not to keep doing it, as his shoulder muscles are not as strong as Arati's, so he won't be able to be like him. He also shows them that he has gone to the match exclusively to inspect Arati with his tentacles. This bothers Nagisa, as he can see the sadness on Sugino's face. But Koro changes the expression on their faces by mentioning that Sugino has more flexible wrists and elbows than Arati, so he will be able to surpass Arati if he puts his mind to it and trains hard enough. Nagisa sees the happiness on Sugino's face and can't help but go after Koro to ask him why he is such a good teacher, to which he replies bluntly that he became his teacher because of a promise. Plus, he takes his job so seriously that he even went to New York just to use his tentacles on Arati. Days later, Nagisa sees how much Sugino has improved in his pitching. Plus, he's motivated not only for baseball but to succeed in taking down Koro. Meanwhile, Karasuma, one of the government agents, reports to the principal to inform him that he is about to leave for Class 3E to begin his duties as a physical education teacher. As he leaves, he sees how much the students of the elite academy despise and mock Class 3E, so he understands that this academic structure was created to encourage effort and competitiveness among the students, even though it is highly discriminatory. When Karasuma arrives at the school to introduce himself as the new gym teacher, he finds that the students are having a twisted time trying to take down Koro, and that he is enthusiastically teaching them assassination techniques. This surprises Karasuma, as it is clear that these students are truly happy learning how to assassinate their teacher. Meanwhile, the directors of the elite academy give one of their students confidential information about Koro, as he will be transferred to Class 3E along with all the losers. Karasuma teaches the gym class alongside Koro until he tells her that it's his duty to do it himself and without anyone's help, so Koro has no choice but to go hang out somewhere else. The students admit that it feels good to be taught by a human teacher with physical characteristics like theirs, since Koro wanted to teach them things they were unable to imitate. In addition, Karasuma shows them that he has tremendous combat skills, so the students are enthusiastic to learn. At the end of the class, Nagisa meets Karma, the new transfer student, whom he apparently already knows. Karma approaches Koro-sensei to greet him, and is greeted in a friendly manner, but Karma's greeting shatters Koro's tentacles, as he had placed anti-Koro material on his hands. Karma then begins to intimidatingly humiliate Koro, which sets his classmates' expectations sky high. So Nagisa explains that Karma was transferred to Class E because of his violent and cynical behavior. During class, the students see how much the situation affected Koro, as he is like a sad child who was punished. Karma hands in his exam and begins to eat ice cream, so Koro draws his attention to it and is furious to see that this is the ice cream that Koro brought exclusively from Italy. When he tries to take it from him, he falls into a trap set by Karma and is once again humiliated in front of the whole class. The next day, Koro arrives in class to find his students very upset. He instantly notices that there is a dead octopus on his desk, so he knows Karma is behind this. Karma tells him that he will first kill its spirit slowly until it dies inside. But Koro moves at supersonic speed and tells him that he can try all day if he wants. Literally, Koro tries to kill him over and over again in every class, but Koro not only prevents each of his attempts, but provokes him more and more. In the afternoon, Karma and Nagisa meet outside the school, and Nagisa tries to convince him that killing Koro is an impossible task, let alone if he tries to do it alone and without help. A flashback reveals that Karma was very close to one of his teachers, but Koro interrupts his memories by saying that he is eager to continue educating Karma. Upon hearing this, Karma has the most twisted and brilliant idea yet, to throw himself off the cliff for Koro to save him. As Karma fell, he began to remember the day he lost the trust and affection he felt for his favorite teacher, as he realized that the teacher didn't really appreciate him, but only took advantage of him to further boost his teaching career. However, Karma's attempt is thwarted by Koro, who saves his student without exposing himself to murder. After this, Karma realizes that Koro really cares for his students, since he risked slightly to be killed by him in order to save him. Days later, Koro goes to the store to buy some things, and on his way out, he finds some thugs harassing a waifu. Koro doesn't hesitate to help her and puts the men in their place, for which the waifu thanks her with much emotion and asks her if she knows how to get to class 3E. Later, Karasuma introduces the waifu in front of the whole class, as she will be the new foreign language teacher. Everyone in the class is left open-mouthed at the sight of her, not only because of her beauty, but because she is all over Koro, as if she is obsessed with him. Nagisa notices a new weakness in Koro. He is as human as anyone else when he is with a waifu. However, she suspects that this waifu is much more than just an English teacher. Later, his suspicions are confirmed, as the waifus meets Karasuma, and Karasuma is astonished to meet face-to-face the famous S-class assassin Irina Jelovich, who speaks more than 12 languages perfectly and is able to infiltrate the riskiest missions. After this, Irina bursts into the schoolyard to seduce Koro and ask him to bring her a coffee from Vietnam. Obviously, Koro is as sympathetic as you and me, so he leaves immediately, and the students immediately discover Irina's true identity, as she tells them that she doesn't intend to teach them anything. Moreover, she quickly demonstrates that she is not interested in anything other than fulfilling her goal, as she is not the least bit interested in fulfilling her task as a teacher. In fact, he kisses Nagisa in front of everyone and explains that he will do the same to those who have information about Koro. She then introduces her right-hand men, who are none other than the alleged stalkers from the beginning. During class, Irina literally only thinks about how to kill Koro and recalls the information Nagisa gave her about Koro, mainly the fact that Koro has an incredible sense of smell despite having no nose. The students demand attention from their teacher, but the teacher detracts them, causing anger among the youngsters. During the afternoon, the students see Koro and Irina leave the courtyard to go to the storage room, so they take the opportunity to complain about her to Karasuma. However, Karasuma tells them that she was chosen by the government thanks to her great ability. All this is explained while Irina seduces Koro very provocatively to make him slowly fall into a trap. Trying to take him by surprise, Irina's men rain a hail of bullets on Koro, but although the attack seemed to be a success, they didn't even manage to muss his hair, and Koro enjoyed humiliating the waifu, just as he does with those who try to assassinate him. The students see all this, so Irina feels even more humiliated. During the class, she detracts the students and tells them that she doesn't care one bit what is going to happen to their grades, since if they are in class 3E, it's because they are losers. After this, the students boo her and throw things at her to make her quit. Karasuma sees this and tries to make Irina reflect by taking her to the schoolyard to see how dedicated Koro is to his work, as he literally takes the time to write exams according to each student's strengths and weaknesses to empower them more and more. He also shows her how much fun the students are having during gym class, as well as getting stronger and stronger in their skills. Irina reflects, and the next day she gives her best in her classes, apologizing to her students and committing herself to teach them not only to speak English, but to learn any language through seduction, which leaves the students bewildered. A few days later, the students of Class 3E learn to extract and distill colors with Koro-sensei, but Okuda surprises the entire class by asking their teacher to please consume the poisons she prepared with dedication. Against all the students' odds, Koro agrees and takes each of the poisons without suffering severe consequences. To encourage the shy girl, Koro asks her to stay after class to make a poison that can kill him, and she takes advantage of the class to explain that it is not easy for her to socialize with others, let alone kill someone. So Koro gives her an exact recipe to make a deadly poison for him. The next day, Okuda comes to class with great enthusiasm and explains to his classmates everything that happened the day before. Okuda gives the concoction to his teacher, and he takes it without any problems. But contrary to what everyone expected, Koro acquires a new power and is able to change his state. After this, he tells Okuda that she will be an incredible scientist in the future, but for that she must learn to express herself in words in the best possible way, and she must not allow anyone to take advantage of her naivety and kindness. Days later, the students of Class 3E leave the school to begin a long trek through the forest. An animation tells that Class 3E is so far away from the city to avoid affecting the performance of the best students. Once a month, they must descend from the mountain, overcoming various adversities to reach the elite academy and witness an assembly where they are looked down upon, as they have discovered that people develop more when they have someone to trample on. Despite all the attempts to belittle the students of Class 3E, they don't even flinch. On the contrary, they enjoy themselves. In fact, the happiness of Class 3E makes the elite students uncomfortable and makes them envious, as everyone is very attractive in Class 3E, even the teachers. At the end of the assembly, a group of students try to bully Nagisa, but Nagisa leaves them in check by responding to them in an intimidating manner. Meanwhile, an academy manager watches from above in disgust, as he is not pleased that his most promising students are feeling envious of a group of failures. Upon returning to school, Koro multiplies his teaching efforts 1,000-fold, moving at such an incredible speed that he seems to be able to have a clone to teach each of his students one-on-one. At the end of class, Koro returns to the teacher's lounge and meets Gakuho Asuno, the academy's principal. Karasuma introduces the principal with much respect, but the principal immediately begins to intimidate Koro by explaining that he does not intend to dissolve the E-class, since with that structure he ensures that the students are highly effective. So he tries to explain his point of view with an analogy about ants. Before leaving, he explicitly tells Koro that he wants the E-class to continue to have lousy grades, since in order for 95% of the students to be elite, it is necessary for 5% to be mediocre and despised. The next day, Koro tries even harder to teach and moves at an absurd speed, even falling to the ground dead from exhaustion. But when he hears one of his students mention that it is ridiculous to try so hard for a couple of losers, he becomes enraged and asks them all to go out to the courtyard. Once there, he asks Irina and Karasuma to explain if everything always goes as planned when they do their work. All this is to make the students understand that they cannot settle for the idea of getting paid 10 million yen for killing him and never having to do anything again, as that plan may turn out badly for them and they will have no plan B on which to persevere. Furthermore, he threatens to quit teaching if they are not able to make it into the top 50, as this way they will be promoted and shut the mouths of all those who underestimated them. The next day, the students of Class E make their best efforts during the exams, but these are really difficult, as they are designed to fail, so they get demotivated and start to give up little by little. However, they remember Koro's teachings, and little by little they manage to pass each of the exercises with great determination. But at the end of the exam, a very difficult question puzzles them. The next day, Karasuma calls the Ministry of Education to file a complaint, since the exam was completely different from what had been announced. But they mockingly explained to him that everyone knew about it except them, since the director himself prepared the exams. Koro is depressed by this, but Karma approaches him and presents him with his exam, showing him that despite everything, he passed. He then encourages Koro and the whole class to shut the others' mouths. Days later, the E-class students are informed that they will have a school trip, so they start making groups. During gym class, Karasuma explains to them that they will have to take advantage of the trip to assassinate Koro, as some elite snipers will also be helping. Nagisa makes a group with Karma, Okuda, Sugino, Kayano, and Kansaki, a waifu who is very popular in the class. Koro arrives on the scene at that time and hands them each some guides he wrote himself about all kinds of information needed for a school trip. During the trip, the Lolas step aside for a moment to buy snacks on the train and run into a bully who takes the itinerary that fell out of Kansaki's backpack. Later, while resting at the inn that the academy rented for them, Kansaki notices that he lost his itinerary, and they have no choice but to use the guidebooks that Koro wrote for them. During the walk, the group tours all of Kyoto just as it was on the itinerary, so they observe every tourist spot in the place that could be useful for them to learn more about assassinations. However, they are intercepted by the group of thugs in an alley, and Karma takes advantage of the moment to kick the crap out of some of them. Obviously, he can't beat them all, and the thugs end up kidnapping Kansaki and Kayano. After this, the youngsters discover that Koro wrote a list of steps to follow in case something like this happened, so they set off to save the Lolis. Meanwhile, the thugs extort money from the waifus, and one of them discovers that Kansaki is someone he had already tried to kidnap once because he thought she was pretty. Kansaki explains that she never tried to look like someone from high society, so she concentrated so hard on disguising it that she dropped her grades noticeably and was transferred to E-class. The bullies slightly empathize with her, so they tell her that she can join them to show the high society people that they are scum. At that moment, the rest of the group arrives using Koro's guidebook, as it said that a not-so-large group would not mobilize too far from the kidnapping location. As if Koro's guide was not enough, He himself arrives just in time to teach the thugs a lesson, and not only because of the beating he gave them, but also because he teaches them that what others say about them is their opinion and not reality, so they should not spend their lives holding grudges against others and trying to get even. After this, the group goes on their way again as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Karasuma meets with an elite sniper named Red Eye to brief him about the mission. The E-class students are communicating with the sniper, so they devise a plan to take out Koro during the ride. Obviously, the first of the attempts fails and the sniper realizes Koro's enormous skills. This is repeated over and over again throughout the day, as Koro literally survives every single attempt as if it were child's play. Because of this, the sniper leaves the mission, but during the night he personally meets Koro, who invites him to dinner and thanks him for making his students improve as assassins, as they carried out great intelligence work to give Red Eye the best possible scenario. On the last day of the trip, the students gather in their rooms to have typical teenage conversations. The boys make a tier list of beautiful girls and we learn about each of the possible romances, mainly that of Nagisa and Kayano. Unbeknownst to them, Koro spies on them and steals the information, as she loves to gossip. He does the same with the girls, who listened attentively to Irina's stories, so they all start chasing him everywhere trying to kill him. Koro takes refuge next to Karasuma, who asks him if he had an affair. At that moment, Koro alludes that he was once human, but Karasuma does not want to bother him anymore and stops asking questions. Upon returning from the trip, the students learn that they will have a new classmate in the class, so they begin to get their hopes up when they see a picture of her. However, when they enter the class, they realize that she is an artificial intelligence. After being introduced in front of everyone, the class begins normally. Just a few moments later, the artificial intelligence begins to attack Koro with a huge arsenal of weapons, which causes chaos in the classroom and leaves everyone with their mouths open, since one of her attacks managed to hit. As the days go by, this happens again and again, so the students get fed up with it and decide to take matters into their own hands. The artificial intelligence believes that it was Koro who tied up his body so that he could not use his weapons, but the students confess that it was them, since it is their fault that they cannot learn anything in class, in addition to having to clean up the mess that remains after each attack. At night, the artificial intelligence asks for help from the head office, as it will not be able to solve this problem by its own means. However, Koro appears and removes each of the bandages on the AI's body, as he does not want his students to suffer restrictions. He also spends the entire night making modifications to the AI's hardware and software so that she can learn to socialize with her classmates. The next day, everyone is left open-mouthed as they see that the AI is now no longer a simple, unfeeling machine, but a tremendous 2D waifu that lives on an LCD screen. Everyone loves the new AI, as she is very friendly and helpful, so they can't believe the enormous amount of abilities Koro possesses. They even christen her Ritsu, but at night everything seems to change again, as the creators of the AI go to the school to take away all the improvements made by Koro, as they don't want their invention to become a waifu. The next morning, everyone is saddened to see that Ritsu is back to his old normal, as he is preparing a super attack against Koro, but surprisingly he proves that it was all a hoax, and that he managed to keep his real personality by hiding the software enhancements in a file that his creators did not check. Days later, Nagisa and Karma mention a movie they are fans of, so Koro doesn't hesitate to invite them to see it at its premiere. Ritsu also joins the trip, and Koro takes them for a ride flying at an absurd speed, while explaining everything she is doing to prevent their bodies from suffering the consequences of being exposed to such great pressure. When they arrive at the movie theater, Koro tells them that they can use his tentacles to translate the words they find difficult. When the movie ends, everyone returns to Japan unable to believe that they traveled to Hawaii to go to the movies. Koro says goodbye to his students and sets off in a different direction, unaware that two strange characters are watching him from the shadows. Meanwhile, the headmaster of the academy notifies Karasuma that he will receive a new student in the next few days. During the class, Koro announces to the students that they will have a new partner, but the only one who knows something about it is Ritsu, who tells them that this student was originally going to join him, and that both would attack together to finish Koro, but that he is so strong that his help would not be necessary. This leaves the youngsters very curious, who wonder if this young man really is as strong as he is presented. Suddenly the door opens and some sort of white ninja enters the room and leaves everyone speechless. The man introduces himself as Shiro, and tells them that he is the tutor of the new student in the class. After this, an unhinged-looking brat enters the classroom, breaking the wall and leaving everyone full of questions since, despite the fact that it is raining outside, Itona is not even a little bit wet. Without a second thought, the young man goes to the front of the class and tells Koro that he will finish him off because he is his older brother, leaving everyone with their mouths agape. For the rest of the afternoon, everyone tries to draw conclusions about this, since obviously they don't have any similar physical appearance, although they both eat the same snacks and read the same magazines. At the end of class, Itona and Shiro set up a ring using the desks, and the fight is announced in front of all the students with only one law. Whoever sets foot outside must be killed. As soon as the fight begins, Itona cuts off one of Koro's tentacles and leaves everyone open-mouthed by revealing that he has a head full of tentacles. This makes Koro furious, as it reminds him of something we don't know yet. As the fight unfolds, Shiro loudly explains that he and Itona know Koro's every weak spot, as they have done nothing but study him. Koro seems to be lost, as Itona seems to be far superior to him, plus Shiro constantly helps him by blinding Koro with an ultraviolet light. After losing several tentacles, Koro sees the discouragement of his students, who are saddened because they do not want someone completely foreign to finish him off. Because of this, Koro makes an incredibly fast move and locks Itona in his skin, throwing him out and ending the fight. Itona goes into a rage and tries to unleash a catastrophe in the hall, but Shiro knocks him out with one shot and takes him away. At the end of the evening, all the students ask Karasuma to double the training. Days later, Class E receives an invitation to participate in a sports tournament at the academy. Obviously, this tournament is only meant to humiliate the students, so Koro takes it very seriously. Plus, he has the advantage of having Sugino for the baseball game. When the day arrives, the Elite Academy's quasi-professional team prepares to mop the floor with Class E, but their plans are thwarted bit by bit, as Class E plays strategically due to the vast physical differences between one team and the other. In addition, it is revealed that Koro himself was the one who trained the youngsters by throwing them balls at a high speed so that they could bat smoothly on game day. Seeing the humiliation that the academy is suffering, the director approaches to ask the coach to leave the place. From now on, the director is who takes the reins of the team and manages to reorganize them by motivating them and making them believe that they can crush the failures of the E-class. Because of this, Koro decides to move his last piece and asks Karma to intimidate Shindo, the team's star hitter. Thanks to this strategy, Sugino manages to break through Shindo's defense using a fastball, and Class E wins the match, while Koro wins the coach's duel. Days later, Karasuma begins to train the students with more determination, as they had requested. In the middle of the training, Karasuma is surprised by Nagisa and uses too much force to repel the attack, for which he apologizes but is perplexed to see Nagisa's enormous potential for stealth. The students are very fond of Karasuma, despite his coldness, but wish he would be a little more affectionate with them, just as Koro is. Suddenly, a good-natured teacher appears in front of everyone saying that the government has hired him to speed up the students' training, so Karasuma greets him and tells him he can fill his hours. Takayoko, the new teacher, wins the hearts of his students by organizing a picnic with them before the start of classes, so the students can't wait to have their first training with Takayoko. Meanwhile, Karasuma looks up Takayoko's file, as he met him in the army, although he doesn't remember much about him. He sees that he is an instructor who is apparently gentle with his students, but is actually a sadistic exploiter. Takayoko presents the new itinerary to the students and leaves them open-mouthed, as he literally wants to have 10 hours of physical education per day. One of the students complains and Takayoko knees him hard to discipline him. Then he gives Kanzaki a hard punch in the face and sows fear among everyone. Obviously, Koro doesn't stand idly by and tells him that she doesn't approve of that teaching method. The same happens with Karasuma, who intervenes before Takayoko hits one of the students again. Tired of the interruptions, Takayoko asks Karasuma to choose one of the students to face him in a real fight, but he must do so while wielding a knife. Karasuma doesn't think twice and chooses Nagisa, showing him total confidence. With his master's confidence, Nagisa approaches Takayoko without a shred of fear, and manages to leave him on the knife's edge as if he were a professional assassin. Takayoko is furious after being humiliated in this way, but after Karasuma puts him in his place with a punch, the headmaster arrives on the scene and fires him. To relieve the stress of it all, Koro literally creates a swimming pool outside the school for her students to have a great day. Two crucial things are discovered in this episode. Firstly, all doubts about Nagisa's masculinity are finally cleared up. Secondly, the students discover that water is a weak spot for Koro. All this irritates Terasaka, who doesn't understand how the students can get along so well with Koro. He treats everyone badly and plays a practical joke by exploding an insecticide in the classroom before leaving. At night, he empties a strange liquid into the river, and it is discovered that he is working with Shiro and Itona to take down Koro. It is even revealed that the insecticide was nothing more than a chemical that would make Koro lose all his mucus. The next day, the three carry out their plan by inviting Koro and the whole class to the pool again. Terasaka pulls the trigger, but unknowingly sets off an explosive mine that Shiro had placed, and all his classmates start running downstream. Terasaka realized that Shiro has no scruples when it comes to endangering others in order to kill Koro, as he did all this so that Koro would run to save his students. Terasaka feels cheated and is very upset, so with Karma's help, he carries out his revenge and manages to defeat Itona using the same weak points they used on Koro. Weeks later, Koro once again strives to teach his students, as the final exams are approaching. To motivate them, he makes a bet with them that consists of cutting off a tentacle to slow them down, but on the condition that they get the best grades. Meanwhile, the principal meets with Karasuma and Irina again, to explain that he does not want to see the E students outperform the other students. One day, Sugino receives a call from Shindo, his baseball rival. He calls him to tell him that the top 5 students of the academy are plotting against the E class. Gakushu Asano, the principal's son, is not only the most popular and brightest student at the academy, he is the president of the student council and has the highest grades in the country. He encourages his classmates to secure the top 50 places in the final exams in order to prevent a student from Class E from transferring. This motivates the E class even more, as they decide to do their best to take those places away from the A class show-offs. Gakushu meets with his father to shrewdly extort him for information about the secret he is hiding in Class E, referring to Koro. The principal admires how much his son has learned, but reminds him that he still has a lot to learn yet. In the afternoon, Nagisa and the rest use the academy library to study, but the mindless A class show up and start bullying them in a humiliating way. Class E literally shows them that they are nothing but inept, and they put into practice everything they learned from Karasuma to scare them. Meanwhile, Gakoshu literally draws up a betting contract between Class A and Class E, detailing that whoever gets the best grades will have the right to dominate the other. In the meantime, the headmaster arranges a God-level exam. When the day arrives, the E-class students arrive at the academy to take the final exams. Symbolically, the students feel during the exam that they are gladiators facing a giant monster in a coliseum. Class A students look confident in the fight, but gradually begin to become demoralized and fail, while Class E students answer the questions without much trouble. The following week, Koro receives the test scores and begins to dictate the grades one by one. Incredibly, several students get the best grades and place in the top one. Class E takes the bet, and Class A literally wants to jump off a cliff. However, the one who was most expected was Karma, as he had gotten the best grades in the previous exams. But this time he has not studied, because he was confident in his abilities. Koro provokes him again and again in a humiliating way, but all in order to get Karma angry and serious about his studies, the same action the principal takes with his son Gakoshu. The next day, Koro tells his students that they can carry out their part of the deal, but Terasaka interrupts him and tells him that he too has the right to cut off a tentacle, since he got the best grades in the subject home. Koro admires the loophole Terasaka found in the bet, as he only referred to the 5 main subjects of the academy, but never mentioned it explicitly, so Terasaka has the right to claim the bet. In the afternoon, Class E meets with the class for the monthly assembly, and they use the moment to ask them to fulfill their part of the deal. So Class A has no choice but to agree to a request from Class E without the right to claim anything. Thus, Class E receives the benefit of enjoying a summer vacation at a 5-star resort sponsored by the school. Before leaving, the E-class students meet Lovro, a prestigious professional assassin who will spend the day teaching them, as he is even Irina's teacher. After working on the strengths of each student, Lovro meets Nagisa and realizes that the boy has a gigantic potential to kill, so he tells him about Shinigami, the best assassin in the world. He also teaches him an infallible technique that Shinigami himself developed. A few days later, the youngsters start their vacation trip on a 5-star cruise ship. Arriving at the island paradise, they spend the day trying to entertain Koro while making final preparations to be able to execute him once and for all. After having fun all day, Koro is taken by his students to a floating platform with all the comforts. To begin their murder plan, the students in the class force Koro to watch an hour-long movie in which they show their most shameful secrets. Unbeknownst to him, they made the place fill up with water little by little, so Koro's tentacles absorbed a lot of liquid, and he lost a lot of speed. At that moment, they ask him to keep his promise to let them shoot him, so they not only manage to get him wet, but also tear off his tentacles so that he cannot regenerate for some time. The youngsters have 1 minute to finish off their sensei, so they deploy an impressive plan to trap him and leave Koro on the ropes once and for all. The plan seemed to work perfectly, and the youngsters celebrated their victory, although they see that Koro used a strange technique and locked himself in an indestructible crystal sphere that they could not destroy in any way. He also explains to them that he will not be able to move for a day until his body is fully regenerated. Obviously, he congratulates his students for getting him to use his final survival technique. The students are saddened and go to the buffet to let off steam, but the tiredness that seemed to be sadness begins to fade, and most of the class begins to collapse with fever. Karasuma receives a phone call, and a mysterious voice tells him that he has poisoned the students and that he will only give the antidote if they give him Koro. Karasuma tries to get information from the government, but quickly realizes that the callers are billionaire criminals and not even the police can interfere. Before the situation despairs everyone, Koro leads a plan for Karma, Nagisa, and Kayano to infiltrate the hotel to steal the antidote with Ritsu's help. The students who were not poisoned join the team to climb to the top of the mountain under Karasuma's orders. As they climb to the top, Ritsu shows the floor plan of the hotel to Karasuma and shows him each of the guard posts.